This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 277. Models Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wargame experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 DVDs a week. How could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, or rather a little over a week ago, Games Workshop sent some DMCAs to some of their biggest fans. And you know what has fans? Computers. And you know what you can do on a computer? Look at websites. And you know what you can use to make your own website? Today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated, optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons, all capped off with their seamless checkout tools. Letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a 14-day free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters. And ready to dive in headfirst, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. So good old Games Workshop has gone after Tabletop Simulator again. Or rather, not Tabletop Simulator, but the mods and assets that are available to use in Tabletop Simulator in order to play Warhammer 40,000 on the computer. This is probably the most clear-cut but useless instance of them going after fan content online. Like, this isn't an animation that, yes, has Space Marines in it, but they didn't make the animation, or some shoulder pads or orcs that look suspiciously like the Games Workshop ones. This is the wholesale ripping of Games Workshop's flagship game, and then just putting it online for anybody to play. But like, good luck stopping that? I don't know, it's a really, really weird one. I've always heard, I don't know much about like British law, but like, I've always heard that they have to be constantly defending their intellectual property or else they have a chance of losing it. Although I've also always heard that you can't copyright game mechanics, so I don't know how hard you can like own a game system. To be fair, Tabletop Simulator, a lot of the assets for miniatures and things are directly ripped from the Games Workshop website. They have their 360-degree spins of all of their figures, and so a lot of people have used those to create the assets for use in Tabletop Simulator. Actually, some of my own miniatures have made their way into Tabletop Simulator because at the end of my videos, there's 360-degree spins, and I didn't even know that anybody had done that. And so I was just looking through like all of the crazy assets that I've downloaded onto my computer, and some of them were literally my own figures, and it was really cool. But Tabletop Simulator is a really kind of fun, special thing that the actual Tabletop Simulator game itself is fine. It like functionally works as a sandbox to do whatever with. But the 40K Tabletop Simulator is kinda nice. I really like playing 40K in person, but sometimes you can't. Like, a buddy of mine lives in Texas and we play on Tabletop Simulator. And you know, he can't just pop down to the local game store to play with me. And so playing online works really well. And there's some really fun stuff like with actual dice rolling. Since it's a computer, it can just all be rolled and mapped instantly, as opposed to actually having to count and modify dice like one by one. You can see things a little bit more clearly because you can scroll around the map and get a bird's eye view of the game state. You can like set up, like you can just, everything is digital. So you have full freedom and full control over everything. It's definitely a different experience than actually playing a game of 40K. And I feel like I play better in Tabletop Simulator than I do in real games of 40K. But I think I'm more in it to win it in real games of 40K. I think in Tabletop Simulator, I can almost see the matrix a little bit too much and it becomes a little bit even more of a game. And so often like I'll be planning my moves ahead of time and I'll be figuring things out and reading up on my rules and like playing really well. But because it's fake, it's not physically real. I think I'll often like, oh, if the game is going really bad in turn 3, I'll just kind of write it off, where even if I'm super losing crazy hard in turn 2 at a real game store, I'm playing out that game and we're gonna see what happens. And it's almost certainly gonna be a horrible Black Templar defeat, but I'm gonna play till the absolute last possible turn. 40k in Tabletop Simulator is a weird little niche thing that is for sure lifted straight from Games Workshop. And so it makes sense for them to go after it, like logically, I guess, but also logically, it makes no sense because you can't possibly stop us. I mean, thousands upon thousands of people already have everything downloaded onto their computer to play like any possible list, any possible thing in Tabletop Simulator. And like, it's always been a little sketch getting everything acquired to play Tabletop Simulator on the computer. It requires a lot more investment than a typical computer game. Like, there's nobody out there who, after like a Super Meat Boy run, they're like, you know what, let's pull up Tabletop Simulator and play a little Warhammer 40,000. No one has ever done that. It still requires you to have Tabletop Simulator, have all of the mods and assets, and then you still have to know how to play Warhammer 40,000. Then you have to make a list. Then you have to find all of the assets for all of the miniatures that are going to be in your list. And then you have to join like Discord servers or know people and know their schedule so that you can find time to actually play with them on like multiplayer. So it takes a lot to still play games of Warhammer 40,000 in Tabletop Simulator. So it's not, it for sure makes Warhammer 40,000 easier to play, but it doesn't make it easy to play. Having some of the most important mods gone from the Steam Workshop is gonna make it a little bit harder for newer people getting into Tabletop Simulator. Just a smidge. I mean, chances are you're gonna have to join a Discord server, and then chances are people in the Discord server are going to either have everything already or know how to acquire everything already. So really, what is gonna come of this, of Games Workshop going after Tabletop Simulator, is nothing. Like, what could they possibly do? Other than somehow like taking down Tabletop Simulator, which they can't do because Tabletop Simulator is just a sandbox and you can't, it's not only for playing Warhammer 40,000. In fact, Warhammer 40,000 is kind of like a small niche of what Tabletop Simulator is used for. But it is just a little bit of a weird one. It seems like this is coinciding with the launch of Warhammer 40,000 11th edition, which is a little bit different from Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. But it just seems like they're just trying this out, seeing what happens. I think it does make a lot of sense for them to go after Tabletop Simulator, but also Tabletop Simulator also offers a nice free service to Games Workshop. I don't think a lot of people are playing Tabletop Simulator in order to play Warhammer 40,000 for cheap. From my experience, Tabletop Simulator players are the most heavily invested Warhammer 40k players out there. Like, everybody I play against, everybody I see online are people who like go to tournaments, who know everything, who play all the armies, who have massive collections, and they need even more. They need even more freedom to get all of the Warhammer 40,000 they need in their lives. And I don't know how many new people are being introduced to the game through Tabletop Simulator. There's probably quite a few, probably people who are already mega invested, like bringing people on to their copy of Tabletop Simulator and like walking them through a game of 40k to like see how it works and kind of teach them. And it is a very nice teaching tool because some of the interactions and mechanics can be done a lot cleaner and more simply in Tabletop Simulator than maybe they can in person. I mean, just terrain is a huge factor. Terrain is really, really important to make 40k function properly. I remember the days of 6th edition and 7th edition 40k when the terrain rules were, I don't know, make a cool looking board, and then if a model is somewhat covered by terrain, you get cover. And if the way you set up the board, if you didn't do it right, and it was hard to know the right way to do it, the Imperial Guard were going to win, or Tau were going to win every single time because they had long range guns. Where it seems like Games Workshop is taking terrain a lot more seriously. I really like some of the changes they made in 11th edition, where there's now terrain footprints and very specific map layouts. I do wish that they could come up with a cleverer way of the map layouts than just having a picture of the map with dozens of measurements to every single piece of terrain to tell you where to put them. Because it is really cumbersome to put together a terrain board and have it be correct. I don't know if maybe if they sold a neoprene mat that had pips at the suggested locations of terrain, I think that would be really, really nice. Or if they just designed their terrain in a grid system so that at least you could immediately see the measurements as opposed to having to measure out 18 and then measure out 20 inches and then measure out 22 inches and then measure 14 from one edge and then measure 6 from another edge. If it was like set up in a grid system so that you knew, okay, I need to be 4 and 6 plunk, this piece goes down, and then I need to be 8 and 12 plunk. It would something to make that part of it a little easier, because in Tabletop Simulator, you just go to your map folder where you have all your maps downloaded, and you're like, do I want to play E, I, or J? And then you click it, and then all of the terrain just imports in perfectly spaced, perfectly placed so that it is exactly how it should be, so that I can know that Sean is absolutely not cheating me on terrain. And so that is incredibly valuable in Tabletop Simulator. You can play 40K faster, because actually setting up a game takes a lot of time, where just importing all of the assets is almost instantaneous, and so you can actually get playing 40K really quick, because the most boring part is setting up the board before the game starts, and then taking all of your miniatures out of whatever container that they were in, and then placing them on the board so that you can then place them onto the actual map so that you can actually begin a game of 40K. Tabletop Simulator does have a lot of advantages, and I would say that Tabletop Simulator is a direct boon to the game Warhammer 40,000. A lot of really high-level players play a lot of Tabletop Simulator because it's so easy to get a game in, it's so easy to try out new things. I've tried it. Usually when I play Tabletop Simulator, I'll often use miniatures and models that I don't actually own to try them out, because it's as easy as downloading them. Like, why not try out? That's how I discovered my Triple Vindicator Black Templar list, and I played it a few times in Tabletop Simulator, and I found I really liked it. So then I went and I bought 3 Vindicator tanks. And I've done that many a time with many a Warhammer 40,000 unit. And then I think the competitive scene is different than casual Warhammer 40,000. People are playing a little bit better, they're playing a little bit more intensely, but also they're trying out a lot of things. And the way that people are able to figure the game out so quickly is because of Tabletop Simulator and the extra thousands and thousands of games that are taking place and happening. And so people are able to figure out like, oh, actually you can do this really interesting thing with Blade Guard Veteran in Salamander's, the Salamander's detachment, Bringers of Flame. Is that still the detachment in 11th edition? Like this constant churn of games happening does lead to people kind of figuring out codexes a little faster, figuring out all of the different synergies and strategies. And so when you look at the competitive scene and you look at their lists, everything starts to kind of make sense. Everything starts to get figured out a lot faster than just seeing like the win-loss ratios on the places where you can actually see like tournament data. Like Tabletop Simulator is really, really important for that. With the DMC takedowns, I would assume Games Workshop would like the Tabletop Simulator community to go away. It won't, and it can't. So I don't know if this is just an instance of, Games Workshop putting it out there to just prove legally that they are willing to defend their intellectual property, or because they can't stop it. There's no way. I've already got all the assets on my computer. Everybody already does. There's already going to be lots of very easy ways to get everything you need to play Tabletop Simulator online. It's not gonna end. Like it's kind of fun because it's the most clear-cut case of, yes, this is a cracked copy of Warhammer 40,000, but also there's nothing you can do about it. So why are you trying to do something about this? It's very odd. Like the people who are playing Tabletop Simulator are some of the most invested people in all of Warhammer 40,000, and a lot of them probably won't even notice that Games Workshop is even trying to do anything about this. I don't know, it's very weird. I think for the rest of time, we're gonna see Games Workshop occasionally going after people for their intellectual property. Sometimes it is really annoying because like some people I personally know have had things happen, and like, yes, it is technically like infringement on intellectual property, but also who cares? It doesn't matter. Like Games Workshop, I think they're doing just fine. I think I bought some of their what was the last 40K model I bought? Well, the Armageddon boxes, but after the Armageddon purchase, I got Blade Guard Veteran. And so, a lot of people are in the exact same boat. Like everything, the Games Workshop's games are pretty darn good. Games Workshop's miniatures are incredible. And really the fun of Warhammer 40,000 is just playing with other people because you have to. And because of that have to, you end up doing it. And because you end up doing it, it ends up being really, really fun. I'm really pumped for 11th edition. It looks like 10th edition, but just with all of the weird little, not all of, but a lot of the weird little eccentricities and annoying frictions have been removed. I wouldn't have minded if they made aircraft a little bit better or at least a little bit more playable, but overall, a lot of things are a lot cleaner and a lot nicer. Overwatch now being a one-time thing at the end of the movement phase as opposed to happening after every single movement of the entire game. Like that's really, really like a really nice change. A lot of little things like that. Everything that is essentially a vehicle or monster now has access to tank shock, which is now called pulverizing impact. It's got some generic name so that it can be used on a Carnifex or a Rogaldorn battle tank. But now it can do a little bit of damage to the user, but it's probably going to do more damage to the person that it runs into. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Like 11th edition does feel really good and I'm excited to play it. Like 40K does just keep getting better and better. And there will always be like some nostalgia for some of the older editions. I'm kind of lucky because I got into 40K in 6th edition and 6th edition sucked, but I've heard really good things about like 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition. And so one of these days I'll probably go back and try out those systems to see if there was something to them. There was some interesting mechanics like the old combat chart where you would take your strength and then you would find your opponent's toughness on the chart and then measure them out to tell you what you needed to roll on a D6. And that led to interesting things like pistol weapons, like a las pistol could never harm a tank, which makes a lot of sense. Like you could just shoot a tank 1 trillion times with a las gun and it will never damage it because it's just a giant hulk of metal. Where now everything can harm everything on at least a 6. It does work a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer for a fast-paced war game, but it is a little bit less, like, I guess, theatrical. It's a little bit less realistic. But you know what's really realistic? The amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocked on our excellent hobby goodies. Gamer Grass Tufts, Great Head Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we got terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. This July, we have created the Bocage Battlefield Terrain, a series of pieces perfect for putting together a historic landscape for games of Conflict 47, Bolt Action, or any war zone with a labyrinth of overgrown hedgerows. These pieces will funnel your infantry into tight firefights while holding a mysterious shack. Maybe it's just a utility building, or maybe it's an improvised encampment, hiding some flesh-eating zombies kept on ice for the right moment to unleash a devastating outbreak. This set was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. I haven't gotten a chance to play Tabletop Simulator in a hot minute. I've actually been playing a lot more in-person Warhammer 40,000, just trying to crank some games in to actually figure out how to win with the Black Templars. My real problem is I don't own any Repulsor Executioners, which are the gold standard Black Templar unit right now, but I'm kind of waiting it out a little bit because the Repulsor Executioner isn't like a classic Black Templar unit like Emperor's Champion or Crusaders or Sword Brethren. It's just a vehicle with a multi-melt. It's a classic vanilla Space Marine vehicle. And right now it's in the limelight. It's the shiniest, nicest unit with the best rules, but like the winds will change. At some point in 11th edition, Black Templar will get a codex that'll hopefully rewrite some of our data sheets to be maybe a little bit better. I think the saddest data sheet in Black Templars is probably the Humble Crusader squad, just being forced to take them in 10-man bricks at 150 points, which is kind of cheap for what they are. But it's a big investment that you almost have to stick 1 or 2 characters onto to really get the points back out of them. And they're so squishy, and they have the same rule as Khorne Berserkers, where if I get shot at and I lose some Crusaders, then I'm allowed to make a surge move that could potentially get me into close combat, which is a very good rule. But on a squishier unit, like Khorne Berserkers are actually pretty tough and tanky and powerful, where Crusaders are kind of just regular Chainsword Space Marines and some Chainsword Scouts. And so they're just not as good, not as survivable. If Games Workshop wants a suggestion moving forward with Black Templars, make us the cheap Marines. Like, it's fine if Dark Angels are the really, really good swordsmen and White Scars are the really, really fast Marines. Let us be the cheap as chips Marine, because if we can flood the board, then it won't feel as bad when so many of my Black Templar little guys die. But right now, they're kind of costed really, really high because we have a pretty good damage output when we actually make it to close combat. But it's such a risk because, I take my almost 300 point squad of Sword Brethren with attached Castellan and Marshall, and then they can kill anything once they reach close combat. But then after they've wiped out one unit, they're just kind of stuck standing there. And so very often my opponent will just pick them right up off the board in their next activation. And then that's, a fifth of my army gone. I don't know, Black Templar, we need a little something. We need something special. Or maybe I just need to play more Tabletop Simulator games to figure it out better. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching.